and welcome to our weekly look at events inside Syria. I'm Laura Kyle. The country's second and largest city, Aleppo, has become a key battleground in the 17-month uprising against the Bashar al-Assad government. The army is launching a major push to drive out rebel fighters, taking 2 days to maneuver heavy weapons into positions around the city. But in the surrounding countryside, the Free Syrian Army appears to be making gains. Hisham Jabbar has this exclusive report from Aleppo province.
There is a dramatic change in Aleppo province. From the Turkish border through to the edge of Aleppo city, the fighters of the Free Syrian Army have taken control, and the Syrian army has largely disappeared. The people seem very pleased. But the fight against the regime's forces in this part of northern Syria is not over. In the town of al-Bab, the army's retreated to a base on the outskirts, where it's been shelling the town and shooting at civilians. This family's car was raked by heavy machine gun fire from the military base. There's only a field hospital to treat them. This young man was unlikely to survive. One local showed us meticulous records of the casualties of the violence. Another, a copy of the Geneva Convention. They're trying to find a code of conduct that is internationally enforceable.
We're trying to study it and apply it to our circumstances. This is not the first time there's been a civil war. They've happened before, and there are international accords.
The Free Army has the base surrounded and under siege, but they can't match the heavy weapons the regime still has.
If people want a life, then destiny must respond. The fetters must be broken, and the people of Aleppo must be free, and they will be victorious, because their cause is a just cause, and the cause of Syria is a just cause.
That was a tank round hitting the building next to us. The Free Army fighters showed us some of the rockets they'd made, with the help of the internet, they'd said. But there's too few of them, and they're not powerful or accurate. What the Free Army has been able to do is give the Syrian army a taste of its own medicine. For months, al-Bab was terrorized by regime snipers who killed citizens randomly and still pose a danger to us. Now snipers of the Free Army are picking the soldiers off one by one. Even the fighters here are surprised at how much they've achieved in a matter of a few days. The catalyst, they tell us, was the killings of the military and security chiefs in Damascus. That blow to the regime gave them new confidence. The Free Army in al-Bab believes it's only a matter of days before the remnants of the regime's military surrender. Al-Bab's half an hour's drive from Aleppo. These opposition fighters are much closer now to realizing their objective, a safe area in the north of Syria. And they're achieving it with homemade bombs hidden in trees, with Kalashnikovs, hand grenades and RPGs. Hisham Jabbar, al-Bab, Aleppo province.
So that's what's happening in Aleppo province. Let's now take a quick look at Aleppo city itself. It's Syria's commercial capital, its biggest urban area near the border with Turkey, where rebels have taken control of a number of border crossings. The Free Syrian Army launched a major offensive in Aleppo a week ago. The Assad regime is determined to take it back. Activists say helicopter gunships are firing into the Salahuddin and al-Sukkari neighbourhoods. Explosions have also been heard in the al-Firdous neighbourhood, and we're hearing of an exchange of gunfire near the Mahat Baghdad railway station, as well as government army tanks in a number of other neighbourhoods. So a lot at stake here for both sides in this battle, and joining us today to look at it in more detail are our guests in Ankara, Taha Ozan, Director General of the SETA Foundation; in Beirut, retired Lebanese Army General Hisham Jabbar; and in Doha, Monza al-Zamalkani, Research Fellow at the Centre for Syrian Studies at St Andrews University. Gentlemen, thank you all very much for joining us here on Inside Syria. If we could start by looking at the fighting that's going on inside Aleppo city. Hisham Jabbar, if I could start with you. Tanks reported to be on the move into the city. It appears the offensive by the military has got underway. What are the government's tactics here?
Yes, first of all, we have to say that the Battle of Aleppo is a senior battle, is the mother of the battles. Aleppo is very important. It's the second capital, but it is the first economic capital for Syria. Why Aleppo started? Because insurgent and opposition took advantage that the Syrian army was really busy and fighting inside Damascus, and they did succeed to establish assets inside Aleppo. There is in Aleppo now, as we learned this afternoon, 2,500,000 inhabitant civilian still in Aleppo, and there are 3,500 fighters. The Syrian armed forces moved, to Aleppo. There is a division. I don't know the number of division, armored infantry division outside of Aleppo, beside the artillery, and the Syrian army is planning to surround Aleppo. This is the tactical plan, and by the mechanical infantry division. When we say division in Syria, that means 15,000. The Syrian armed forces still have 10 brigades. 8 of them are commandos or special forces. And we learned that they are preparing 2 brigades to go into Aleppo after they will surround Aleppo. They will surround Aleppo in the military, and they will ask the population to leave, and they will cut any support to the insurgent inside Aleppo.
Okay, I'm just going to jump in here because I want to just to bring in our other guests. Taha Ozan, do you think that the military has a strong strategy, a strong, clear idea of what it's going to do over the coming hours, the coming days in Aleppo?
Actually, I mean, everybody focused on what's going to happen and what's happening early hours of today. But unfortunately, if you check out last 10 days, this regime is using 500 kilogram bombs in Aleppo, and in a way of collective punishment. It itself showed us and proved that regime is out of control. And the damage out of those bombs are unimaginable. That's the news we're getting, that's the information we're collecting. So they were already lost their control in Aleppo. The other important thing is if the resistance and the Free Syrian Army somehow gets Aleppo, it naturally will create some kind of no-fly zone, because between Aleppo and Turkey there is almost nothing, and everything is almost under control of Free Syrian Army, and Assad regime, one way or another, will be forced out of Aleppo, and that zone will be natural no-fly zone.
Okay, Hisham Jabbar, do you agree with that? Do you believe that the rebels do have quite a good shot at achieving victory in Aleppo, creating a no-fly zone?
Nobody can know now who is going to succeed in Aleppo. It's a very difficult battle, and I believe that the Syrian armed forces will use all means not to control Aleppo. Aleppo, as we said, who control Aleppo will control Idlib also, and the countryside about it. I don't think the Syrian armed forces will give up, and I think it's very difficult for the insurgent to win the battle. It's not easy, and we have here 2 important factors. The Syrian armed forces, they have commando, they have air force, using the air force, and they did use it, and they have helicopters, and also they are counting on the tribes. We call them al-Ashair inside Aleppo. Those people are with the regime. But on the other hand, the regime has a problem, and the al-Ashair, they are a credit, but there is 20% of the inhabitants in Aleppo are from the Kurdish community. When you say 20%, you are talking about 100,000 or 200,000. At least there is 30,000 of them. They can bring weapons. Those Kurds, if they move to support the insurgent, the opposition, I think at that time the Syrian regime will have a big problem and will be in big troubles. in Aleppo, we cannot say who's going to win.
No, it's certainly going to be a very difficult battle. Let me just bring in our third guest, Monzon al-Zamalkani, at this point. We are getting reports that the Assad government's forces have been meeting fierce resistance already on the streets inside Aleppo, and narrow alleyways, perfect for guerrilla warfare tactics. Do you think in that environment these two sides are more evenly matched, if you exclude the factor of the regime's air power?
Of course, I think the opposition, or the revolutionaries, I can call them, they gained more heavy weapons from some parties, regional or maybe international parties, and that I think will probably little bit maybe they are poor of aircraft armor right now. And this is very, very important because the more the shelling they have, or they're fearing of, is from the aircraft aircraft shelling, which may cause a lot of civilians casualties. And I think at this point now, where the Battle of Aleppo, what the regime fear most is the defection, because he can't go into the city because maybe his troops will defect. But I think what the Syrian Army, or what the revolutionary fear most, is massacre, because you know Aleppo now is from the beginning, or since the beginning of the revolution in Syria, has been as a refuge for all villages and areas around Aleppo. All of them, they sought refuge in the city. Now I think if any bombardment to the city will cause huge massacres, not from just Aleppian themselves, but the people who sought refuge in that city. For that reason, the people, I mean, great powers such as America or even Russia are warning maybe there's massacres, or they call it now the big massacre in Aleppo. We hope it would never happen anyway.
Do you think this would be a targeted massacre, or do you think this would be civilians being caught in the crossfire, or a targeted massacre as in the case of Hula?
I don't distance that what happened in Hula might happen many times in Aleppo, because as I'm saying, there's a lot of people from outside Aleppo. And don't forget here, Aleppo is very, as they mentioned, my colleagues from Turkey and Lebanon, it's a very strategic city. The elite, they will make a conflict inside the city between the elite of that city and the people who is loyal to the revolutionaries. So there is here this is the tactic, I think, of the regime. We know that the elite in Aleppo is totally loyal. They've got the religious elite and the social elites are totally loyal to the regime, while the people, the normal people, are loyal to the revolutionary. So we might have some clashes between these inside the city between these groups.
Okay, let's put that point to Taha Ozan. Do you think that the elite in Aleppo do remain totally loyal to the regime? Where does the majority of the civilian population's support lie?
I mean, that kind of classification could be very harsh. There are definitely people in Aleppo, which is mostly into trade and the business circles, may have tendency to the regime, but at the same time, Aleppo is almost a natural, very much integrated with Turkey. And those elites are having business with Turkey. Those middle class having relationship with Turkey. There are no visas. They are going and coming back. So there is a very powerful Turkish element, and that element supports not the regime but the resistance. Another important thing is we cannot see and evaluate Aleppo as an isolated case. It is an important step in the process of revolution. So when you put these are the forces of regime and these are the capabilities of resistance, so who is going to win? This question is not fair and not correct. We should see Aleppo and the fight in Aleppo as an important step in the process of revolution. So anytime can happen in Damascus, and it will be directly affect what's happening in Aleppo, or let's say, a defection in the circle of Assad will directly affect on Aleppo. So it's not an isolated case. That's why the capabilities of regime is not, I mean, giving me the exact idea and make an analysis just based on their capabilities.
What do you make of the comparisons that are being made between Aleppo and Libya's rebel stronghold of Benghazi?
No, I mean, Libya case was quite different. I mean, Libya as a whole is different than Syria, and Benghazi, Misrata, and Tripoli thing is entirely different. In the history of Syria, Aleppo and Damascus and Antep, the Turkish city, and Hatay, these were what? All integrated cities. And they had a what? Very much interaction through trade, human resources, etc. But in Libya, Benghazi and Tripoli, historically, they were different worlds, I should say. And during the Gaddafi rule, it was even much more. Benghazi was always the place for what resistance and opposition to Gaddafi, and that played its role during the revolution. So any comparison between Benghazi and Aleppo is, I think, quite different. Another thing is, Benghazi, I mean, was under control of Libyan rebels and resistance for a long time. So out of that comparison, we should be also saying, even if the resistance gets Aleppo, it will take, let's say, about a year to somehow do something in Damascus or Damascus.
Hisham
I
Jabbar,
think,
so I'm
I
just
think
going
it's
to jump in there. I
different.
want to just see if our other guests agree with you. Hisham Jabbar, do you think that Taha Uzan is right, or do you see that there are parallels between Aleppo and Benghazi, potentially?
Yes, ma'am, I do agree with your guest, Mr. Taha, that there is no way to compare between Syria and Libya. But if the insurgent can take Aleppo and the countryside, including Idlib, that's remind everyone and let him think about Benghazi without any comparison. But in the land, and the tactical and the military operation point of view, it will give the insurgent Aleppo and the countryside a very important place as a not buffer zone, a base, you know, for fighting, and they will be free to get any support from Turkey, from other places. Also, there is another point he did mention. The fighters inside Aleppo, they need the sympathy and the support of the population. We don't know yet if the people inside Aleppo are in favor to the insurgent, to the opposition, or still on the favor of the government. It's really confusing. As we said, in the north of Aleppo, there are 100,000 of Kurdish. They didn't take any political position yet. Also, the regime, as we said, I repeated, counting on al-Ashair, the middle class and the bazaar in Aleppo. I don't think those people, they want their own profit, they want stability, and they will not support anyone. In this case, there is a problem for the insurgent. Also, there is a slight difference between, in a tactical point of view and military point of view and military operation, between Damascus and Aleppo. Damascus, first of all, the Syrian regime is still facing two major challenges. Damascus first, because the game is not over yet in Damascus, and they're still fighting in the streets. Second, in Damascus, the army has a big problem, cannot use inside the narrow streets like Kafr Sousa, like Al-Midan, like Al-Qabun, cannot use artillery because they are very close to each other, and cannot also send tanks inside narrow streets.
Yeah,
First,
okay, I'm going to jump in there because
there are many, and Aleppo is different.
I wanted to pick up on the point that you were making earlier. It is a fair point, isn't it, Mr. al-Zamalkani, that Aleppo did stay out of this uprising and the ensuing conflict for a very long time, and it does throw a question mark over the loyalties of civilians and where they lie.
Absolutely. This is a very important point, that the revolution didn't start in Aleppo as it started in Benghazi, in the Libyan scenario. The revolution now, we are entering the 17th month of the revolution. So there's a slight, big, actually not slight, it's a big difference between Libya and Syria in this case. I think the battle of Aleppo is decisive for the regime most, not for the revolutionaries of the Free Syrian Army, because I think his credibility and ability on the line now, not internally and internationally, internally among his remaining supporters. So if he lost Aleppo, that means he is finished. Only Damascus, and Damascus, of course, never been loyal to even the elites in Damascus. It's not that been loyal as it was in I can remind you, the Grand Mufti is from Aleppo. The previous Prime Minister al-Utri, he was from Aleppo. He stayed in power as a Prime Minister more than 6 years, and the regime has invested in Aleppo in public sector before the revolution too much, and in economy also. So if he lost Aleppo, he knows. Internally, he will lose his credibility among his remaining supporters. Internationally, he will lose also his credibility or ability to suppress the revolutionaries, especially among the states that support him, Russia and Iran. So his ability and his image will be really, really damaged when he loses Aleppo. And I think, from my viewpoint, he is not able to control Aleppo anymore, because Aleppo has long been struggling between the elite and the majority of the people in Aleppo, and of course always the majority win on the long run. Now elites, he wants to invest the elites, but I think the time is over now. So, and the clash has to this battle has to have a winner right now, and then
okay.
Aleppo has to be on the side of the regime, on the side of the revolutionaries.
Okay, yeah. Well, let's just use our last few minutes to look at the outside world's reaction and what they need to be doing at this point. Taha Özcan, Turkish Prime Minister, said that the world cannot remain a spectator to the Aleppo offensive. What exactly do you think he meant by that?
I mean, it means a couple of things. I mean, first of all, Turkey is watching, as you know, the Syrian case quite clearly. There is a huge public support for Syrian revolution and the resistance over there. But there was an incident. I mean, Assad regime shot down an unarmed Turkish military jet in the Eastern Mediterranean, and that case is still on the air. And Turkish Prime Minister claimed that we are going to decide how to respond, and we are going to decide when it's going to be. So we don't know. We can just only speculate. But it's quite clear Turkey is giving what support it's the cause in Syrian revolution, and the Turkish Prime Minister trying to keep every single country who can play a role in this case be aware of what's happening over there. Since we do have a experience of Misrata and Benghazi, I believe, I mean, Turkey is not going to just watch if there will be intense massacres. But the most important thing for the resistance is this: the atmosphere is different. It's different than past 10 days ago. And right now, for example, nobody expects, in general, Assad regime to win the fight in Aleppo. We can just make analysis, but I'm talking about atmosphere. Rather than that, regional, national, and international atmosphere is already started to talk about what will happen after Assad. And you can put another important element, who are the Assad apologists. Right now, they are not even talking about what's happening today. They are talking about what will happen tomorrow. So these are all the signs creating an atmosphere that Assad is not going to win.
Sure.
And
okay.
under this
Hisham
atmosphere,
Jabbar,
in this atmosphere.
But to what extent does the world watch while that unfolds? Because everyone is talking about post-Assad, but we're not talking about when. We're not talking about how long this conflict is going to go on for. So Hisham Jabbar, how long should the world stand back? Or what should Turkey, what should the US, what should the EU be doing at this point?
Yeah, I think we don't know exactly how long it will stay, the regime, but I think has the many possibility to stay a long time. First of all, the opposition, in my opinion, don't have to be that optimistic and counting on defection or counting on the support of Turkey. For many reasons, Turkey will not be involved in direct operation against the Syrian regime, because Turkey will count on 10, because Turkey has 350 kilometers with Iran, and also will put in mind the Kurdish rebel in the north of Iraq and on the borders of Turkey. This is first. Second, if they are counting on defection, the Syrian armed forces still united. Of course, many, they left the army, and they count them 60,000 or more or less, but no one single unit left defected yet in the Syrian armed forces. Syria still have navy, still have air force, still have 12 division, and if you say division 15,000, still have 10 brigades and other forces. It's early to be that optimistic.
There we do have to leave it for today. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But thanks very much to all our guests for joining us. In Ankara, Taha Ozan; in Beirut, Hisham Jabbar; and in Doha, Monza al-Zamalkani. And thanks to you too for watching. If you want to catch the show again online, you can do so on our website. That's at aljazeera.com. That's all from me and the Inside Syria team. Bye for now.